How did you decide to open a gym in Brookhaven, and what inspired you to enter the fitness industry?
Decided to open up a gym in Brookhaven because that's where I was living. So it wouldn't make sense, to open it up somewhere else and kind of travel. But I always wanted to be an inspiration and be a reason for change and give people something to achieve. And through physical fitness, I've always been in fitness my whole life. So getting out of the Marine Corps, it just stuck with me. Brookhaven was a place that needed it. And we've helped a lot of people so far. So the thing is, just moving forward, just trying to help more people, however I can. Whether that's doing different classes, self-defense, speed and agility, strength and conditioning, rehab. People need some of everything.
What challenges did you face when starting your gym, and how did you overcome them?
The main challenge was location. There wasn't a lot of places open that could facilitate a fitness center, whatever you want to call it, complex. So starting out, man, we only had 4,000 square feet, and we had to lease that. So with that 4,000 square feet, only about 2,300 of that was usable. So it had to be real creative. And you couldn't go in. We didn't want to go in, tear down walls and stuff, because we had to pay for that stuff on the way out. So going in, it was like, okay, well, what can I use, and how can I be creative enough to use what's available? So, hey, there's a parking lot outside. So if we need to run, let's go outside and run the parking lot. Hey, we got a small strip of turf. We could push sleds in here. There's a small area over here. Let's stick all the cardio stuff in this area. Let's take this room right here and let's do the classes, the boot camp, the beast camp classes in there. So I had to be real creative because the way everything was kind of sectioned off. So that was the main challenge, was finding a place to facilitate that, and signing the lease and hoping that, hey, by the end of this thing, I have something, that I can move into, So that's how we ended up building our own facility, which is now 10,000 square feet. And we have 1,300 square feet of trainable space. So that's huge. It's a big difference, and it's a big help. The one thing is knowing that nobody can really pull the rug from under you. That's the main thing I worried about on the front side of that, is when you're leasing something. Hey, there's a contract, but if somebody doesn't want to renew something, then it's like, hey, man, I got to find somewhere else to be, and there's not a lot of places to be. So getting this built before that expired and setting things up, it helped out a lot, because now it's like, okay, have that peace of mind. I know where we're going. We're going to be there for a while. Only way we'll be out of here is if we decide to sell it and move on to something bigger. But that's not in the plans. So that was the main thing, just finding somewhere to be. Finding somewhere where you could fit in, somewhere that made sense. A lot of places have to make sense. Is there a populace that you could pull from in the immediate area? You don't want to be way set off somewhere where, you're way off the beaten path. Hey, good luck for somebody finding you. So being in a prime, in a good location. So that's also a hurdle. So once we found, the land, now you have to find something that you can afford. Right. Find something you can afford. And this was actually during the time of COVID. So prices were skyrocketing. So that was another challenge. It's like, hey, man, how fast can we get this thing done before we exceed this budget? Right. And, the building ended up cutting into the equipment budget, but we got the building. So that's really all that matters. But that's the biggest challenge, going in, was finding the place, being satisfied with that place, working with what that place had to offer. And we only had one bathroom, man, but we made it work.
But you mentioned COVID. Was it tough getting people to buy in? Was it tough to get people to come in during that time? Yeah,
we took a hit. Everybody did. Some places never recovered. Right. But with us, our members still paid their membership. Even when we were closed, they were still paying their memberships. They knew that we weren't a major corporation, that we were home owned. So One of the guys said, yeah, I told my wife we're going to keep paying our membership because if D closes, we have nowhere to go.
Right.
So just having good people, behind you and believing in what you do, that helps out a lot.
Yeah.
And they carried us through that. So the people that we did lose, eventually they came back. Some people never came back. I think some people just never came back out the house after COVID. They kind of stayed away. Maybe they started doing their own thing, whatever it is. But we made it through. It was tough. There were times we wanted to come back in and just open up and like, man, they just got to come in and shut me down. But we stuck with it. I brought some stuff home, just kind of do some stuff and ended up not using it. So like I said, we made it. It seemed like that was a different part of life. Like it almost seemed like it didn't happen. Living through it was like a surreal moment. But, the world was different, people were different, and now it's like everybody's like totally forgot about it. There's a few people who still, they're holding on to, that COVID mindset. But I think everybody else, for the most part, has moved on, and the people who are going to come back came back, and the people who aren't, they just wish them the best.
Yeah, I always say it felt like a Dragon Ball Z reference, like a hyperbolic time chamber. Like you was in it, but you don't necessarily know. Like you was in it, and then you came out. You a couple years later, if you understand the reference.
Right.
And it kind of felt like that.
It did, but and this is the thing, you grew from it.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot of time that would have been spent working, doing something, dedicating that time to other people that you never got a chance to work on yourself. So for that time when we were closed, it was a great time to sit back and kind of reflect on what led up to that point as far as, where we are business-wise, how are things going? How can I improve this quality whenever the doors open back up? What can I do to assure people that, hey, we've taken all the precautions, we've done everything we needed to do, for your safety, and how can I become a better trainer? How can I become a better performance coach? So I was able to sit back, kind of think, draw up a few things and come back and actually execute. And we came back better after COVID than going into COVID.
Right.
Due to that break, I call it forced evolution. Right. Something happened that forced you to evolve. Absolutely. And it was totally out of our hands. So with that, I started doing online training with my members. I set up a little portal. We'd get on there and we'd exercise. Hey man, Beast Camp is going at 09. So we all log in, we'll get in. Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see y'all. Hey, let's get after it for these next 20 or 30 minutes. And for them, that was a little piece of being normal again during a chaotic time because nobody knew what the next day was going to bring and the whole world was in chaos. So just having that little piece where people could say, hey man, looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning. Nobody was close. Nobody was closer than 6 feet. Yeah, right. I could have saw you yesterday, and then today they said stay 6 feet away. And I'm like, all right, man, I'll holler at you later. You stay over there. We good. So, just going through that time period, it did a lot of good things. I mean, it was terrible to go through as far as the impact it had on people and businesses and everything. But the time that I was able to get to myself and just kind of think and reflect and rebuild myself on becoming a better person, a better father, a better husband, through that, my daughter never knew about COVID. Like she knew about COVID, but she had the time of her life. Like, we shielded that. I told my pops, I said, when I saw him, on the backside, I called him and said, hey, I just want to thank you. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, because I never understood as a kid growing up how much y'all shielded from us. How, you were that umbrella. I never got wet because it rained on you. So that's the kind of mindset, like going through that. My daughter never knew how bad it was in the world and stuff like that. We went outside, we played, we ran around the yard, we did board games, whatever it took. So, so as a person, man, we grew tremendously.
Can you talk about and share the success stories from members who've been here at the gym before?
Well, You know, when people talk about success, as far as a lot of times you think about the athlete. You train the athlete, you might have trained them in high school, you know, off and on in college, and boom, they go pro, or, you know, things of that nature. But to me, my biggest success stories are the kid that never played a sport before or had an issue, a physical issue going in, and the parents bring them in and say, hey, you know, my kid's lacking confidence. He's being picked on, he's being bullied, you know, these types of things. And over time, you start to see this kid transform into something different. One of my Marine Corps brothers, he said, man, I admire how you're able to take people, normal people, and turn them into beasts. He said, like, you have a gift at doing that. You have a knack for doing that. So some of my biggest success stories is I had a kid, he came in, never played baseball before, a little bit overweight, wasn't real confident in himself. Came in, man, we worked for some months. And his mom was in tears. She called me, she said, my son made the All-Star team. You know, and this kid was probably like 10 or 11 years old. First time making All-Stars. I mean, he was limping because he had knee issues coming in. And, you know, we worked through. I was like, are you sure he's good? She's like, yeah, he's good. So eventually, you know, working past that and getting, you know, to that point, that's, to me, like, those are some of my biggest success stories. I've trained pro athletes, high-level athletes, you know, high-level amateur athletes, but I expect them to do great things because you're at a level where, hey, look, there's nothing else except great expectations, and we have to follow up on these things. So the way that my mentality training one person is totally different when I'm training another person. Like, you have confidence. That's how you've made it to where you are, right? You had to believe that you can get there, and you made it there. So now I'm just polishing up those things, and we're going to continue to climb that mountain. Whereas you have this kid, he has no expectations. He doesn't know what that is yet, right? He's never really had to work for anything, and he's shied away from a lot of things that may be a problem, or is complicated, or it might be, you know, may not be his thing yet or her thing yet. So you find that and you develop that, and you turn this kid into something that they didn't even believe that was in him. So when the parents see him and they're like, wow, like, that's the biggest thing. When a parent calls me and says, thank you, that's my biggest success stories. You know, when somebody else notices that this kid is different. What's so different about this kid? There's a matter of fact, there's a guy, he drives in probably about 45 minutes away, 5 days a week. And his dad was bringing him. He's a 10th grader. And man, he was getting bullied. He was getting picked on. He's a real slender kid, you know. He's not like everybody else. And the grandmother was like, why are you driving him way to Brookhaven? Why, you know, there's other places that he can go. And the dad was like, you just don't understand. Like, this is where he needs to be. So finally, she had to bring him one time, and she called her dad and she says, he's right where he needs to be. That's a great place. Like, I've noticed him changing, and he's become a more confident person. He's not getting bullied anymore. He's not getting picked on, you know, because he's able to stand up for himself, but he also walks different, right? He walks like he has confidence. He doesn't walk like the little scared cat anymore. So to me, those are my biggest success stories. It's not the, you know, the special forces guy that I train and going doing, you know, what special forces guys do, or, you know, law enforcement, or this. Like, no, I expect you to do these things. It's the kids. So putting those things into kids, and as they develop, when my kids, who are now grown men, you know, I'm giving away my age from when I first started training people, but I had one that came back. He was one of the first groups I've ever trained before. He's a high school football player. And he came back in years later. He walked in this building. He said, man, I just had to see it for myself. He said, you've been telling me way back when that it was going to happen, and I had to see it for myself. And he said, but I also came to tell you thank you. Some of the things you instilled in me, I teach my kid. So that's successful. That's building a legacy. So that's what I wanted to do. is build a legacy where it, even, when Coach D's finally checked out and is no longer training anybody anymore, the principles and things that I taught people are still benefiting people. So to me, like that's the biggest success stories, is people like that. And there's a few of them, and I don't get in. I mean, it's so many that you forget, like how many people you've actually touched, that have gone on doing great things that may no longer live in the area. Haven't seen you, but if I walk into them in Walmart, they come up and they give me a big hug. And they, man, this Coach D, and they could be with their wife, and the wife like, oh, I've heard about you. And it's probably, it's good, but it's good, bad things, like Coach D go hard, but that's successful, to me. And that's why I can sleep good at night. Like I don't go home and, worry about numbers and, this, that, and the third. Is, hey, did I do my best to impact somebody in a positive way today? If I did that, then, like I'm good to go.
I like that. That's how I like to put it when I do things. As long as I can inspire one person, I did my job. Yeah, that's how I like to look at it as well.
People are going to do that. So if they did their homework, they're students of the game. They're smart, but now they're a student also. So let me teach you how to study. Let me teach you how to be a better student. If I teach you how to be a better student, it's like my athletes, when we're doing drills and stuff like that, my goal is to turn you into a little me. Because now you can go out and you know what you're supposed to do, but now you can also help your teammates. You can put your teammates in better position. And that turns you into a leader. Without going out barking, rah, 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 because you're the alpha dog or whatever. Now you're showing people through your work ethic how to work hard. How to fine tune those little details. So now, what does that do to your influence level? Because you're able to walk into a room and influence everybody else. That's what makes the great leaders, right? But, somebody, like me, for instance, I didn't have that coming up, right? I didn't have the best coaching, this, that, and the third. Now I had coaches that made an impact. When it came to winning games, but making an impact, forcing me to level up. Hey, don't accept this level. You can do better than that. All right, good to go. So I learned a lot from bad coaching. Right? So I learned how not to coach from seeing how bad coaches did it. And I love winning, period. So even though playing on a team sport, losing all the time, I never looked at myself as a loser. Like, nah, I'm playing on a losing team, but I'm not a loser. I'm still a winner. Let me go over here and run track and win some stuff, But
individual drills with them.
Yeah, so I got to go do my thing over here. But doing that and having that winning intuition, somebody who always wants to win, and doing whatever it takes to win, and not doing the wrong things to win, right? Like juicing, something, off the wall. But you know what? I'm going to grind harder than the next person. I'm going to focus hard on this more than the next person. And that stuff right there, people don't play sports forever, right? But the lessons you learn from playing sports can take you through life.
Absolutely.
So having, somebody like that, I got this brief moment. I might 2, 3, 4 years max, right? I got to make an impact. I got to teach you something to keep you going. Boom, boom. Always a lesson that you can come back to. So that's what you have to start doing. So if you miss that point, if you miss that opportunity, right? You don't earn opportunities, you're granted opportunities. You can work your ass off. And if nobody gives you an opportunity to move up, you don't move up. So if someone grants you an opportunity to move up, you had to be ready for that. Right? That was up to you. If you were ready for that, the door opened. Were you ready to walk through it? Nah, I need a little more. Door closes. Boom. Opens up for the next person. So I try to make that impact, boom, as quick as you can. So the coach has to be coachable. Because you have to learn fast who you're dealing with. What do they respond to? What are their biggest needs moving forward? Like, what can I do to get you set up to where you can start building and look back and say, man, look how far I've come in such a short period of time. That's what makes great coaching.
Absolutely. And that video that we did a long time ago, I reposted like last week. I often go back to that because you was just like self-correct. Like the greatest athletes are able to correct themselves, and like I just go back to that and just listen to that. I like to go back to that. Of course, I listen to my Nipsey. I watch interviews and things like that for motivation. So yeah, that was always a good moment.